සුපිරි අධිවේගයක් පරදා ඔබ මවිත කරවන වේගයක් විඳගන්න. පියවර 3කින් ශ්‍රී ලංකා ටෙලිකොම් ෆයිබර් ඔප්ටික් ජාලයට එක්වන්න. slp.lk වෙත පිවිසෙන්න.
Making headlines on First at 9. Wrong target. President Maithripala Sirisena insists that trade union action does not hurt the government. Salaries of railway employees. Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe refutes trade unions on salaries of railway services. Deepening debt. Patriotic Professional Forum accused the government of mismanaging the debt component.
The current government has increased the national debt by 40% within just 3 years.
Pledging support. UPF MP Dilan Pereira says the SLFP's group of 16 will participate in the joint opposition's rally. US sanctions. Washington imposes fresh sanctions on Russia. A very good evening to you and welcome to First at 9 on Derana 24/7 Sri Lanka's news channel. I'm Katharina Chang. Now on to your top story tonight. President Maithripala Sirisena insists that trade union action cannot hurt the government and says such action in fact affects the general public as they are the true victims of these strikes. The head of state touched on the ongoing trade union action by employees of railway services while addressing a function held in Colombo this morning.
The Sri Lanka Ayurvedic Drugs Corporation and the Sri Lanka Army initiated the distribution of 100,000 herbal plants under the patronage of President Maithripala Sirisena today. The ceremony was held at the Vihara Mahadevi Park in Colombo.
Do these people who conduct strikes think about the children who commute to sit for the advanced level examination? Aren't they parents themselves and don't they have empathy? If anyone thinks that they can hurt the government by these strikes, that's a myth. In fact, it hurts the innocent general public. Can the renaissance of a nation be seen through these actions? We have a government that can solve problems. I'm glad that from the January of 2015, we have never pulled the trigger. When I receive information of an anti-Sartan protest by the university students, I instruct the IGP not to pull the trigger. In fact, not to even take a gun. Let them harm the public property, but they should not be physically harmed. People scolded me in utter filth, saying that I don't have a spine and I don't stop these protests. This shows that the people are unenlightened to use the freedom they're given. If they did it back then, they would not be alive today. We have to fight 2 wars for the renaissance of the nation. We have to revert to weapons for one, and that is the drug menace. I had a discussion with relevant units yesterday. I should get 3 reports, which include the AG's report by the Minister of Justice and the report by the judge who gave the death penalty. We have to do all these things in order to see a renaissance.
The strike action launched yesterday by railway trade unions continued for a second day today. Railway commuters were severely inconvenienced as train services were cancelled throughout the day.
Trade unions consisting of station masters, railway guards, railway operatives and locomotive engineering operators launched a strike without prior public announcement yesterday. The decision was taken after the Cabinet of Ministers withdrew a cabinet paper regarding salaries of railway employees. This led to a tense situation at the Colombo Fort railway station this evening when inconvenienced commuters started demonstrating in an expression of their distress. It was in this backdrop that members of the railway trade unions were assaulted by some inconvenienced commuters yesterday when they were extending views to media. Following these developments, Police Special Task Force and Riot Police units were deployed at Colombo Fort and Maradana railway stations last night. Meanwhile, Sri Lanka Transport Board and security forces provided a special bus service for train commuters. A train service was also deployed last night with special security. The strike action by railway trade unions disrupted daily lives today as well. Even foreign tourists expressed their frustration over the situation.
We want to go to Kandy and we're stuck here. Okay, I was not expecting that.
It's our first day, it's not a good start. We have just arrived in Sri Lanka and we had our ticket reservations, so we don't know yet what to do.
The strike is very harmless for the tourism. So this is, we are disappointed. It's very bad news for our tourists.
My first time here in Sri Lanka, we wanted to go for the train because it's a famous thing to do here, but then now we can't take the train anymore.
To go to Ella to do the nice scenic train ride. It's not good.
8 train services were however in service this evening from Colombo Fort and Maradana stations. Meanwhile, a special bus service was provided for students who are sitting for the A-level examinations. Despite criticism from the government as well as the general public, the railway trade unions emphasize that they will continue the strike until their demands are met.
It was based on Minister Mangala Samaravira's dictatorial decision that the cabinet paper was not implemented. We will continue to carry on with the strike until the cabinet paper is implemented. The President was the one who appointed this committee and recommendations were given directly to the President. So, we express our regret over the President's decision to hand over the decision-making process to Minister Mangala Samaravira.
Meanwhile, Minister of Finance and Mass Media Mangala Samaravira expressed his views on move reverted to by railway trade unions.
During the cabinet meeting held on the 7th of August, the government decided to appoint a committee to look into amending salaries of all government officers, including that of railway workers. The Finance Ministry was preparing to present the relevant cabinet paper next week. It was in this backdrop that this strike was launched to inconvenience the public and in turn the government. I strongly condemn this action. I ask them to immediately come to the discussion table.
Train drivers who are engaged in the strike over low salaries receive a monthly salary of Rs 275,000, including overtime payment. Railway guards receive a monthly salary of Rs 180,000, while station masters are paid a salary of Rs 163,000. It is in this backdrop that Minister and Deputy Minister of Transport and Civil Aviation condemned the ongoing strike action.
During the cabinet meeting the day before yesterday, Minister Mangala Samaravira read out the reports presented by myself and the special committee. He then highlighted that there will be a salary inequality between the railway workers and employees of other sectors of the same pay grade. It was then that the cabinet decided to postpone the decision until a report is compiled on salaries of all pay grades. We requested them not to engage in a strike, inconveniencing advanced level students, but they wouldn't listen to us. I ask all railway trade unions to come for discussions with us and conclude this strike immediately. We cancelled leave for employees of the Sri Lanka Transport Board and around 6,000 buses have been deployed for public services. There are 21,000 private buses in the country and private buses are given permission to journey without licence for the moment. Those who have the monthly season ticket for railways can travel in buses of the Sri Lanka Transport Board. We are also working on allowing the same facility to train commuters travelling by private buses as well. Much needs to be done, such as transporting fuel to the airport. We requested that railway services be made an essential service with the authority of the President.
North Korea has been under heavy scrutiny with sanctions imposed on the country in view of its nuclear missile program. It now emerges that Sri Lanka is embroiled in a UN sanction violation, with Reuters claiming on Friday to have seen a confidential report by the United Nations on North Korea violating sanctions imposed by the UN by continuing their nuclear and missile programs. It says that North Korea has also violated a textile ban by exporting more than $100 million in goods between October of last year and March this year to several countries, including Sri Lanka. Sri Lanka's Ministry of Foreign Affairs, however, moved to refute the allegations yesterday, calling the news reports erroneous.
According to a confidential report by the United Nations claimed to have seen by Reuters, North Korea has pressed ahead with its nuclear and missile programs, evading UN sanctions continually through increased illegal ship-to-ship transfers of oil products at sea. The 6-month report by independent experts monitoring the implementation of UN sanctions was submitted to the Security Council North Korea Sanctions Committee late on Friday. In the report, it is allegedly claimed that the North Korea has also violated a textile ban by exporting more than $100 million in goods between October of last year and March this year to China, Ghana, India, Mexico, Sri Lanka, Thailand, Turkey and Uruguay. Sri Lanka was also accused earlier of importing commodities from North Korea in violation of sanctions placed on the country. Back then, UN experts monitoring sanctions named Sri Lanka, alongside other countries including India, Pakistan and China, as having flouted restrictions on North Korea. The report found that between October 2016 and April 2017, Sri Lanka imported over $1 million in iron and steel from North Korea. The Sri Lankan Ministry of Foreign Affairs, however, moved to respond on the matter, saying that the information contained in the news reports in relation to Sri Lanka are erroneous. The statement went on to say that in keeping with Sri Lanka's international obligations as a member of the United Nations, the government of Sri Lanka abides by the provisions of the UN Security Council resolutions in relation to the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. The statement also highlights that there have been several instances where at point of data entry into the customs automated data processing system, the country of export had been selected inadvertently as the Democratic People's Republic of Korea instead of Republic of Korea. The ministry added that having clarified this inadvertent error to the panel of experts, the Sri Lanka Customs has now initiated a mechanism to prevent repetition of such errors in the future. In such a backdrop, First at 9 contacted Foreign Affairs analyst Mohan Samaranayake and questioned him as to what the likely repercussions Sri Lanka would face if found culpable.
If any country, whether it's a member of the United Nations or not, violate UN-imposed sanctions, these countries are culpable and they can be punished. But the harsh reality is that countries are punished, especially if they are weak, poor and small. So this is not the first time countries have violated UN-imposed sanctions. In the past, there were many instances. Powerful countries, beginning from the United States, Russia, and so on, they have violated UN-imposed sanctions many a times, but they were not punished. If the powerful countries are determined to punish Sri Lanka or take action against Sri Lanka, it will happen. If they are not so determined, then it will not happen.
Taking a look at today's parliamentary proceedings, the Mutual Assistance in Criminal Matters Amendment Bill passed with a majority of 64 votes in favour. Meanwhile, a proposal regarding remuneration of Independent Commission Chairman and members also got the approval of the Parliament.
The Mutual Assistance in Criminal Matters Amendment Bill was debated on Tuesday and its vote was scheduled today. Accordingly, the bill passed with a majority of 64 votes in favour.
A cabinet paper is implemented only if it is approved by the Cabinet of Ministers. No such thing happened here. They can freely engage in such strikes because we don't have the culture of white van kidnappings or killings. Let's increase salaries of these commissioners. What will you do about the situation where decisions taken by the police commissioner don't get implemented? There's no point in increasing salaries of the police department if they can't implement decisions they take. There are 2 charge sheets against him. We have inquired from the police commission about the matter. There are 2 charge sheets against him. As per law, we can't promote those who have allegations against them. You should present these allegation papers then. It isn't fair not to give officers their due promotions because of personal vendettas. Be more sensitive about this issue.
The Central Committee of the Sri Lanka Freedom Party met last night under the party chairman, President Maithripala Sirisena. Several parliamentarians of the SLFP who resigned from ministerial positions were also in attendance.
The Central Committee of the Sri Lanka Freedom Party met last night at the official residence of President Maithripala Sirisena. Party restructuring process had been discussed at length during the meeting and almost all participants had forwarded their proposals. MPs SP Disanayaka, Dayasiri Jayasekara, Thilanga Sumatipala and Dilan Pereira, who represent the SLFP's Group 16 and resigned from ministerial positions, were also present at the meeting. Addressing a media briefing today, MP Dilan Pereira clarified the stance of the SLFP's Group of 16 on their participation at the SLFP's Central Committee meeting.
We will be participating in the rally organised by the joint opposition. I saw that the issues concerning the opposition leader's post being given a wrong interpretation. Some say there is no party called the joint opposition. Then we can also say that there is no party called the United National Front. Yesterday we handed over a letter to the President informing our participation at the joint opposition rally. We also told him that unless the SLFP is ready to discuss breaking away from the government, at least by the next anniversary of the party, we will move for drastic action. Around 10 SLFP members out of 23 in the government are holding discussions on joining us. I am sure they will be with us soon. People like Minister Duminda Disanayaka are trying to link the SLFP to the tail of the UNP. That is a disgrace to his father Bertie Disanayaka. If Duminda joins with us tomorrow, I will embrace and welcome him.
Convener of the Patriotic Professionals Forum, Dr. Nalak Gudeheva, accused the government of increasing national debt by 40% within just 3 years. Addressing a media briefing today, Dr. Gudeheva said the present government plunged the country into debt and has resorted to point the finger at the previous regime for its own mistakes.
Never in the history of this country we have had a government which blatantly lied to people like the current government. Look at what they told people when they were asking for power. They said they will expose mega deals from mega projects, from ports, airports, highways. Today, is there a single investigation that we hear about these things? Have they found anything? Any indictment on any of these things? No. There was no mafia in 2014 in this country. Nobody spoke about that. Now, who brought it since this government came to power? Now, they spoke about debts. One of the main topics of the government when they came to power was that the previous government has indebted the country. But there has never been a government which borrowed like this government in the history. The current government has increased the national debt by 40% within just 3 years. And they didn't tell the people. 1/3 of the debt was already settled when they came to power by the Ports Authority, and yet Ports Authority was making profits. They said Mattala airport is not suitable, birds are coming. Then why are Indians interested? If Hambantota port is not suitable, why are Chinese interested? So these are all lies that they told the people. And then recently they signed an agreement, a trade agreement with Singapore. One of the stupidest agreements signed ever by a government according to the professionals in this country. They have proven that this trade agreement has no benefits to Sri Lanka. Singapore government claims already that they save $10 million a year from this trade agreement. What has Sri Lanka government got to say? Nothing, because we get nothing.
Former President Mahinda Rajapaksa today touched on the suggestion of a possible rift between President Maithripala Sirisena and Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe. Speaking to media following an event held in Bataramula today, the former president said that the unity government must resign if there is such a rift between the two leaders.
The definitive decision must be given by the Speaker. He shouldn't listen to any party. I hope the Speaker has guts to give a suitable decision. That shows the rift between the President and the Prime Minister. How can the country move forward like this? The best solution is for the government to resign. The ruling has been given by the court. We're not sure about the punishment that the Thera received because it seems that the ruling was a bit too harsh. But because it's the ruling of the court, all we can do is appeal.
අධිකරණය ක්‍රියාත්මක වෙන හැටි ජනතාව බලාගෙන ඉන්නවා.
You are watching Sri Lanka's award-winning news channel, Derana 24/7.
China has made a tit-for-tat move to counter the latest in US tariff hikes on Chinese goods by targeting $16 billion worth of US goods. China's Commerce Ministry has announced that it will start imposing 25% of import duties on US goods, which include coal, oil, chemicals and medical equipment. Last month, the US imposed duties of 25% on Chinese imports worth $34 billion.
China is to levy additional 25% tariffs on another $16 billion of US goods as a countermeasure to the US tariff hike. The list of US goods include automobiles, bicycles, coal, oil, chemicals and medical equipment. The additional duties will take effect on the 23rd of this month. In June, the Customs Authority unveiled a list of products from the United States worth $50 billion that will be subjected to additional tariffs in response to US announcement to impose additional duties on Chinese imports. Additional duties on the US products in the first part of the list worth $34 billion came into force on the 6th of July. A spokesman for the Chinese Ministry of Commerce said yesterday the United States has placed its domestic law above the international law to impose additional tariffs on the Chinese goods and that China is forced to take necessary countermeasures to protect its own interests. He added that the United States is standing in opposition to the whole world by launching a trade war.
Sri Lankan shares rose for a second straight session today and posted their highest close in more than 2 weeks as foreign investors continue to buy into the market heavyweight John Keel's holdings after recent sell-off. The Osha price index closed 0.57% higher at 6,155.41, its highest close since the 25th of July. The turnover was 478.4 million rupees today, compared with this year's daily average of 847.3 million rupees. Let's now cross over to Amanda Lukugamage from First Capital Holdings.
Index closed in green, recording the highest surge in 3 weeks, mainly supported by Ceylon Cold Stores and John Keel's holdings. Turnover and volumes have decreased more than half, and nearly 25% of turnover was derived by crossings. A net foreign inflow was recorded for the second consecutive day with high foreign participation.
Sri Lankan rupee closed marginally weaker today on importer dollar demand, while dealers expect the local currency to stabilize around the current level in the short term. The rupee, which hit an intraday low of 160 rupees and 10 cents per dollar, ended at 159 rupees and 95 cents to 160 rupees and 10 cents, compared with yesterday's close of 159 rupees and 90 cents to 160 rupees. Let's now take a look at how the Sri Lankan rupee traded against other currencies during the day. Washington says it would impose fresh sanctions on Russia after it determined that Moscow had used a nerve agent against a former Russian agent and his daughter in Britain. Sergei Skripal, a former colonel in Russia's military intelligence service, and his 33-year-old daughter Yulia were found slumped unconscious on a bench in the southern English city of Salisbury in March, after liquid form of the Novichok type of nerve agent was applied to his home's front door. Russia has criticized the new sanction as draconian.
US State Department spokeswoman Heather Nauert said yesterday it had been determined that Russia has used chemical or biological weapons in violation of international law or has used lethal chemical or biological weapons against its own nationals. Given the determination, she said, fresh sanctions will be imposed on Russia and they would take effect on or around 22nd of August. The news came as Republicans' US Senator Rand Paul said he had delivered a letter from President Donald Trump to Russian President Vladimir Putin proposing cooperation. The sanctions would be structured in 2 tranches, with the biggest impact from the initial sanctions expected to come from a ban or granting licenses to export sensitive national security goods to Russia. After analyzing closed-circuit television, police think several Russians were involved in the attack on the Skripals.
The Indonesian island of Lombok is hit by strong tremor as the search continues for victims of Sunday's earthquake. The latest aftershock had a magnitude of 6.2 and it brought down some buildings. Rescue workers are still searching for survivors, digging through rubble in hope of finding people alive as the confirmed death toll jumped from 131 to 256 people.
A strong aftershock with a magnitude of 6.2 hit Indonesia's Lombok island today, causing some buildings to collapse. The tremor was felt strongly on the island and followed a 6.9 quake on Sunday that killed at least 259 people and damaged thousands of houses.
Terjadi gempa, Masya Allah, Ya Allah, terjadi gempa, orang semua pada lari.
Rescue workers are still digging through rubble and trying to get aid to survivors of the earlier larger quake. Although the official death toll jumped to 259 today, local media are reporting figures as high as 347. The government says more than 1,400 people were injured and more than 156,000 displaced.
You are watching Sri Lanka's premier news channel, Derana 24/7.
A very good evening to our viewers and welcome to Forecast First. Starting off with your temperatures for tomorrow, that will vary between 20 and 35 degrees Celsius with the highest of 35 expected in Ampara. Well, when looking at the map, a low pressure zone will develop in the western province and will gradually disappear. Well, several parts of the island, including Jaffna, Mena and Anuradhapura will experience the sunny weather, while the areas of Kandy, Colombo, Galle and Matara as well as Hambantota will experience showers with thunder activity also expected. That's all from the Weather Centre tonight. Up next is your city by city forecast.
And before we go, we'd like to take you to the Kaludia Pokuna. It is a forest reserve with archaeological remains in Kandalama, located in the dry zone of Sri Lanka. Kaludia Pokuna is also rich in biodiversity, both flora and fauna. The forest is home for many endemic and non-endemic species and they thrive there in comparison to other forests in Sri Lanka. We hope you enjoy these visuals and have a pleasant evening.
Bringing you the news and information 24 hours a day. This is Sri Lanka's premier news channel, Derana 24/7.